Episode 114 of Teh Tarik with Walid. Good night, everyone, and welcome. And I am delighted. I think I gave Andre Loh the first interview ever. I soft launched him as a candidate. Was it Tampines candidate? I think. Potential candidate. So today I'm gonna soft launch another candidate, Sufyan. And I will ask him to introduce himself in a while. So welcome everyone. So we are in election mode right now. So every day I will try to have something, and not over the weekend, but subsequently, almost every day there'll be one episode, at least sometimes maybe a couple of episodes. So Sufyan, thank you for being here. And I don't know whether you're in Eastie.
Yes, I am. I'm
okay.
Actually not that far from your place. Actually.
Oh, really? Okay, wonderful. So you're a son of Tampines?
Not.
We already have son of Punggol in Tampines, Dr. Gopokun, but yes. So maybe you tell us a little bit more about yourself first, Sufyan.
Okay, sure. So hi everyone. So I am Sufyan. I am 33 this year, and I have been a lawyer by training and for some time I've been practicing law. Lately, I have since resigned from my firm on the basis of my firm's policy that it's a non-partisan practice lah. So, in that regard, I have since left my position as associate director and fully invested in assisting the party in these elections for now.
Then what happens after the election?
So I mean, on another note, I have actually applied for a practice license to start my own practice. So that's ongoing. So whilst that's ongoing, I am again fully invested in the efforts of
what
the
type
party.
of law do you practice?
I started basically doing both. I mean, litigation and non-litigation work. That's quite a spread of work lah. Basically, from probate to family to adoption matters, and then to property, real estate, and corporate work. So then I pivoted over time to non-litigation work to focus on growing that practice lah.
Okay. So if you could tell me a little bit more about yourself, where you went to school and so on.
Sure. Well, I went to school in my neighborhood. I grew up in Pasir Ris, so it's nearby where we are.
Okay.
And so I went to Elias Park Primary, neighborhood school. I went to Temasek Secondary after that.
I was from Temasek Secondary.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay. New info. New info for me today.
Okay. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So Temasek Secondary, which is in
Tampines JC after that? No.
Are you kidding me?
Really? Are you from Tampines
I'm from Tampines. Wait,
Same as well.
I should have read up about him before this. I have no idea. Okay.
So Temasek Secondary.
Yes.
Then after that NUS?
No. Okay. So that's where we differ. So then so I went to Tampines JC, and then I tried to figure out what I wanted to do when I was in NS lah. Whilst I was in NS, I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do growing up. Just like a bit of everything. I want to do business lah. I want to go into aviation. It could be anything. So by some point, I think I focused myself, and then finally felt that I want to have a career where I could like make a change in people's lives or to effect certain differences and all that. And I think that drew me to law. In any case, in terms of getting into a local law school was not an option for me because I wasn't the best A-level student. So I had to look into going overseas, which I did. And then I applied for a bank loan and everything, and then I talked to my parents and say, you know what, I wanna pursue this. So I went to Australia. I went to University of Tasmania.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And my parents were like, okay, wait, are we gonna from whose money are we gonna send you there? Right. So I said, okay, I get the bank loan, we can guarantor and all that. So that was that in my NS days lah. So then I went overseas and studied and came back with the degree and just started work there and there lah.
Okay. So sounds from your story, it seems like you came from a humble background.
Well.
Okay, so that's what I've been hearing the whole past week, right? Humble background here, humble background there. Yeah. So somebody commented RI of Bedok. That's a joke for Temasekians, right? We like to call ourselves the RI of Bedok. Well, the teachers call us the RI of Bedok. Anyway, so where are you contesting?
I think your guess is as good as mine. Because honestly, to be frank, anything can happen between now and nomination. I always believe that, you may have an inkling of this or that or anything, but it's only for sure on the day when it matters lah. So I'll leave it as that.
Okay, so I don't know whether I want to leave it at that.
Okay, sure. Let's pursue this.
So
see how far I can go. See how far I can go.
Let's see. So where would you like to contest? If Pritam says, okay, Sufyan, up to you, man.
If it's up to me, to be frank, every area that the WP looks like they are contesting is really, comfortable for me. Why? Because they are contesting in the East. I mean, Eastie.
Okay.
So that will be, comfortable anywhere. Having said that, I would say that it's no secret that I have been working in a certain area and everything, because my name was raised in the media some time back, if anybody noticed, where I've worked, which is in Punggol and all that. But like I said, the caveat is anything can happen. Anything can happen whether I'm even fielded. So I'm just here to assist the party and speak for the party, just to be one of the voices.
But the fact that the party sent you tells me that you may be fielded, right? Unless there's a switcheroo or something, right?
Switcheroo. That's exactly.
Pritam is playing chess. He's holding the cards too close to himself. It's so difficult to second guess him. But yes, and I completely understand why he would want to do that, right? He wants to ensure that nothing is given. No advantage is given to the PAP or so on. Okay, so thank you so much. But interestingly, Punggol is not a Malay minority GRC. It doesn't mean you cannot have a Malay. You can have as many Malays as you want.
That's right.
But you still need an Indian or others. Right?
That's right.
Okay, so what is one big policy that you would campaign for or you would champion if you are elected as a parliamentarian?
I think there are many lah, but I was thinking about similar questions, and in my line of work, particularly with regards to real estate and property, and even property disputes which I've handled in high court matters and all that, I always noticed many issues where even families would take each other to court just for the issues of ownership and about
is this
sales
inheritance
proceeds,
or
inheritance as well, and even sales proceeds and many other issues in families, are taking parents and children. So it really leaves a mark on me, like in terms of the issue of property and of housing particularly. Why people would feel that they will be compelled to take those options. So on a broader point, in terms of our housing policies and the issues of housing prices and cost of living coming to it, I mean affecting it. I think now I can speak to the manifesto lah, because I think we have released it today, I believe.
Yes.
So there is one particular policy that they did, that we proposed, which is to suggest that instead of having 99-year leases for HDB, BTOs and all that, we can consider having a tier where we have a shorter lease for certain categories of buyers or first-time buyers who are entering the market. Because we have had endless debates about excluding land costs from purchase and all that. Okay, we've had the reply from the government why they can or cannot do that and all that. Okay, fine. So in the interim, at the very least, could we have something proposed to have a 70-year lease, for example, for certain
How would that
people?
affect the market? So it will drive prices down.
I would say there will be a separate category in terms of the market, because if you are a 99-year lease property, it is what it is. Then if you are buying into a 70-year lease property, that's the price in that market range.
The prices should be lower, right?
It would be lower, I suppose. Then, if let's say you want a 99-year lease for whatever reason, let's say you're buying in your 20s and you think you're going to live, is your forever home, you might not want a 70-year lease. So it doesn't really affect the market.
So the long term is removing land costs from it. That's the long term.
I think it has been said and suggested many times by various parties.
Even including yesterday, the independent candidate on my show said that as well.
Right.
But in the interim, at least you want.
Yeah, that could be.
But something needs to be done, right? The prices are crazy already.
Yeah.
And when you do your walkabouts, is this the number one issue for young people?
Sorry, excuse me. We drink some tea first. A bit too much talking for me.
So meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in. I think there have been some comments, 5D chairs and so on. But yes, so if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yes. So back to that issue. I mean, the question. Not so much about for my walkabouts. I think the walkabouts, the issues are always the daily, issues, which is cost of living and all this. Housing issues always come up when I was volunteering at the Meet the People session when I did with MP Faisal at Aljunied. I think the number one issue every session is housing, and it's a myriad of issues. Like it can come from prices in terms of not being able to secure enough loan or HDB loan to purchase, and then getting us to have appeals to assist, not being able to even book a flat for many reasons, and even for rental flats the same issue. So it's really a thing that comes up all the time, and I think we have overspoken about it. I think yeah, for sure.
So it's very interesting, right? So from the perspective of a candidate, when you walk around, people talk about different things.
Yes.
Then when you do the MPS, people talk about different things. I presume when you sit down at a coffee shop with some friends, also they raise different concerns as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So different segments of society, or under different circumstances,
Yeah.
people bring up different issues to you.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, even with regards to housing, I see a different segment of society having different worries, you see, because like younger people like myself, my generation, we're thinking about entering market, thinking about the prices and all that. But then those who are like, say, my parents' generation, who already have their homes and all that, their worries are, say HDB leasehold decay, and even other issues like that. So how do we reconcile these two issues? That would be the biggest challenge, I think.
Okay. So housing will be your number one.
Well, it will be a major policy area that I will definitely talk about.
So I want to ask what other major issues. But there was a comment asking whether you've been walking the ground in East Coast. But I actually, what I was when you talked, when you gave the answer just now, and then something immediately triggered in my mind. You said you've been helping out at Faisal's MPS.
Yes.
So is Aljunied a possibility?
This is harder than hard talk. I'll try my best to answer you.
So is Aljunied a possibility? Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Okay.
And 23rd of April is not too far away. So
that is true. I guess we just need to have some patience, right? But I need a scoop, for today. Okay, thank you. So, other than housing, what else?
Yeah, well, I mean, cost of living is another thing. I mean, it may sound, people think cliche, cost of living, housing, but it is the existential issue of our generation.
Would you say that is the issue that this election will turn on?
I would say cost of living, housing would direct the narrative of the election for sure. I mean, people are talking about tariffs and all that, but it's so volatile that we don't know what the sentiment will be specifically to that. But in general, broadly, it's
I fully agree. And also, the tariffs, I think, it will not be immediate in the minds of voters. Right. I think the cost of living and housing will be immediate. From your walkabouts in Aljunied and Tampines, and you didn't say, accidentally. So from your walkabouts, what's the sense of people? Because just now I was talking to a few friends over lunch, and it seems like there is a level of unhappiness that I have rarely ever seen. Now, of course, a lot of older people will say unhappy, but still people will still vote PAP, and that could very well be true. But I personally have not seen this level of unhappiness or criticisms towards the PAP. I think trust in the PAP is still very high compared to other countries. But just compared to previously, I think trust was a bit harder. It was a bit more solid. But what's your sense?
I will answer it this way. I think the Singaporean voter are very discerning. So
Agreed.
They are a tough bunch. We are a tough bunch to please, so to speak. We are good judgments of character, good judgments of talent. I would say that. So because of that, the sentiment has always been the goodwill that the PAP government has, earned and also developed our nation over the 60 years. So I would say the goodwill is still there, but the goodwill is also in
Decreasing.
some ways decreasing, or in some ways maybe perhaps taken for granted. So I would say
okay.
there is a segment of society where they would feel, do we keep status quo? Do we need alternative voices? Do we need, political discourse to be encouraged? A balanced system. So I think those voices are out there, and it's in the mainstream. So I think it's a really mixed bag in terms of the voices that we hear on the ground. But I think everybody's open-minded. So that's why we are pushing what we are.
How long have you been volunteering with the party?
Coming to a year. Yeah,
Okay.
I've volunteered for a year.
So in this year, do you see a difference?
As opposed
When you
to
started,
when I started.
yeah, when you
As
started.
opposed to I think when the election was coming, I think people start to focus in a bit more on the issues. I noticed that during my house visits, because when I walked, say, a year ago, people were like, elections are coming, they don't know. I've said probably possible, after the Prime Minister took office last year. But then it somehow didn't crystallize in terms of the issues that they wanted to talk about when we meet them in the house visits. But over time, I think by this year and then by the last few months, people were actually vocal about the issues that they were concerned about. So there was a marked difference on the mood.
And that is because they are more interested, or because they sense that elections are coming, politicians will listen more? What is it?
I think it's a bit of both. I think they are more interested, yes, because if I speak as a regular Singaporean, I'm not into politics, I'm just doing my work, taking care of my family. At the end of the day, do I need to really sit down and think about these issues and talk about it? I might feel it, but I might not want to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's a bit of both. People become more vocal about it. At the same time, because of elections, they feel the attention will be given to it.
Right. Okay. Excellent. And I think that should be the way, right? Because politicians should react to elections, and voters should demand politicians react to elections. So Imran has a question. What is one issue? This is a difficult one. Do you think the WP MPs could have done better in the past 5 years? That if you were there, you would have done it? Or you think they are perfect already?
No, I don't think anybody's perfect. I think they would say the same thing.
Right.
In any case, done better. Well, I see the scorecard this way. The opposition, particularly the parliamentary opposition, speaks to an issue, right? If you can push through a certain narrative that the government may adopt, that's a win. So wherever we have pushed issues where the government has not adopted or yet to adopt, that's where I think the room for improvement will be.
Okay. That was a tricky question that you handled pretty well. So people are talking about immigration, and I think this. Do you notice that is another one? The top 3 issues I had of the elections would be cost of living, housing, and immigration.
Sure.
Do you think immigration as well?
I think it's up there somewhere, for sure. Yeah. It is not, I think, in a way where Singaporeans are xenophobic, because we are really not. I think immigration is a issue where if you speak too much, in one way, it may be misread. So I think the issue is really not, the crux of it is not really immigration, it's more about jobs and opportunity. That is actually the issue as far as this debate comes up. So again, I think the government and us as the parliamentary opposition have dealt with this many times in terms of giving opportunities and how do we promote more Singaporeans in the workforce, and even those who are retired to be coming back in and to upgrade their skills. So I think this is the crux of how we actually solve this issue, because if you don't feel that your bread is taken away, immigration, why would it be an issue?
Right. So immigration is still related to cost of living. That's what I'm saying.
I think everything, most of the issues will be related to cost of living.
So immigration wouldn't be a problem if cost of living wasn't an issue. It wouldn't be that big of a problem.
It wouldn't be that big of a problem.
Okay.
I think I can contend to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fair enough. So someone asked me, and I wanted your sense as well. But 2011, you were what, 19? Yeah. So you were probably following elections also.
Yes.
So 2011 was the first elections I voted in, and there was just a sense, 2011 was. It was never replicated again. 2015, of course, the year Lee Kuan Yew passed away. 2020 was a COVID year. 2011, there was just a sense, a smell of change in the air, especially after nomination day. People sort of knew and thought that Aljunied would fall. So I think 2011 is unique in that regard. However, this time round, I do feel it may not have that same sense, same odor, but it does seem to me that the trust in the PAP is not as solid as before. So when I hear people talk about the 4G, fairly and unfairly sometimes, some of it is unfairly as well, where they are criticizing the PAP and they will say, oh, the Lee Kuan Yew would never do this, when actually Lee Kuan Yew would do the same thing also, you know. And I remember people saying, oh, Lee Kuan Yew would never use race when they were talking about the reserve presidency. Lee Kuan Yew would never use, but yeah, GRCs were introduced during his time as well. So some of it was unfairly, but the point is still that people do not have the same level of affection for the PAP as before. So I think that's where it could be different this time around. What do you say about that?
Well, I think it's a healthy progress, if you ask me. Why? Because I think parties or political parties should be judged on their merits and what they have delivered and what they can deliver or promise to deliver. Why PAP had so much goodwill prior, which I mentioned just now, is because of the 60 years of nation building and all that, and it's still there. Even for us, young generation, we understand that. You see, so it somehow colors our thoughts about what actually might be the best option at that point in time. So I think it's a healthy progression for society to say, you know what, let's look at this objectively. You see, what is specifically what's in this manifesto, what's in that manifesto, how do we chart the course forward for the country?
So how important are manifestos? Because most Singaporeans do not read manifestos, right?
Well, not the entire year, but I think what is good is that when they have bits of the main points to be disseminated for people to look at. I think in our context today, what matters in the incumbents' manifesto is that what they will actually be able to implement. That's how it should be seen, and then how, say, our manifesto is to be seen what maybe promote. Maybe
alternatives.
Alternatives that the government may even adopt.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Has to be seen.
100%. By the way, I saw a couple of people said NG and somebody else saying they were at Serangoon Stadium. Were you there? 2011?
Yes, I was.
I was as well. So I was there as well. It was electric, right?
Yes.
It was electric.
Yeah.
What a night! What a night! I was there with a few friends. So hopefully 2025, we'll see that sort of atmosphere. Although I must warn also, I must caution against this. A lot of people attend the WP rallies, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean they'll vote for them. Partly it's a stress reliever also. And then the PAP rallies are also much smaller because people already know what the PAP is about, and the PAP has no other avenues, that they put out there. So people are not really super interested in WP rallies. But I was there, and I strongly encourage Singaporeans to attend one PAP rally, one WP, and one of the other parties as well, PSP, SDP. I would strongly encourage. I mean, it just gives you a flavor to the election that you never get.
And I think active participation in politics is important.
100%. Democracy needs work. We cannot just leave it to the elites. You cannot leave it to the elites, the humble elites. What do you think of a candidate's length of service with the party in relation? Oh, that's an interesting one. So, two of the new candidates WP introduced today have been with the party fairly short. So I presume you are referring to the two ladies whom I must say I'm pretty impressed. I don't know them personally. I didn't know them before this, but I'm pretty impressed with the two of them, the way they spoke and their backgrounds. Yeah. Do you think it's a problem if you have been with the party for a short time?
I think it is not to me personally, it's not the first thing that matters. I think the first thing that matters is your contribution and what you have done and what you can do, or what the party thinks you can do in terms of contribution. Whether it's grassroots, whether it's policy, whether if you are elected, what you can do in parliament. I think that would be the first thing to think about. Yeah, but at the same time, I do understand that having some time spent in the party would mean that you are clearly invested lah in the mission lah.
I think the good thing about being in the party for a long time, I mean, because the opposition journey is a very arduous, it's a very difficult journey. So if you show that you have been there for the longest time, that shows a level of commitment. But the bad thing is also you could be, you know, just thinking in one particular way, right? You could be in your own bubble, whereas coming in from other. But in fact, one of the criticisms of the PAP is that it's insular, you know, it reproduces itself as group thing, right? So I actually think it could be beneficial as well to have a mix. Okay, so let's talk about the GRCs, right?
Sure.
So I have a couple of questions on this. So firstly, let's say, so I presume you're going to contest in a GRC, right?
I don't know.
Is there a possibility of you going to Hougang or something?
Anything is possible.
Yeah, who knows, right? Because there is one here. Tampines Changkat SMC, maybe, right? He's going to be the candidate that. So the GRC, why not contest in an SMC? Because if you contest through the GRC, I think you are contesting, your ethnicity matters. But if you're contesting as an SMC, in an SMC, I don't think your ethnicity matters. Because that means if you get elected, you're on your own. I don't think people who are minorities who are elected through SMCs are obliged or obligated to represent their community. Because they were not there because of the community representation. It could be if they want to, but I don't think they're obliged to. What do you think? And why not contest in an SMC? Or are you open to it?
Yeah, I mean, to speak to your point, I think that strengthens the point of where our party's position is on this, which we have always called for the abolishment of the GRCs. Having said that, I do understand and recognize the need for GRCs and the need for minority representation. How I see this is this way. Ideally, it should be SMCs everywhere. Everybody should be elected on their own merits. And to your question, sure, I'm definitely open to be elected, to be considered as a candidate on my own merits rather than my race. I think many minority candidates would feel the same. And that just speaks to the fact that we have moved to this point in our country, in our nation building. So, you know, it may sound idealistic, but the reality is that this is the natural way of how things will be. You know, having said that,
so preferably you actually want to contest in an SMC.
I would say to speak to where I may be fielded or not might be too presumptuous. So I think I will not address it that way, but I will address it how I did, which is, you know, we should be elected on our own merit. So the position should be everybody should be contesting candidate per candidate on your merits.
Pritam, Tampines Changkat. There's one SMC here. So interesting. So you don't think that without the GRCs, minorities, especially Malays, would be less likely to be elected?
Yeah, again, so the timing of, I think, one thing that our nation is good at, I wouldn't say it corrects itself, but it does correct itself. What I mean by this, particularly for this, is I think the time will come where we will understand as a society what is needed and what is not needed in our society. So perhaps in the late 80s or when the GRCs were implemented, there were reasons for that, because we had, you know, the the home integrated program and all that. So and we don't want to have a certain segment where they would politicize race to become an issue, and then having, you know, non-minority candidates to compete against minority candidates. So we understand that. But I think it comes to the point where I think when we build a proper, balanced, democratic system that is entrenched, we can have a understanding or situation where you have a two-party system, say for example. Both will have an understanding. There will be a diverse slate of candidates, right? You have minorities, you know, a substantial amount of minorities represented. And even to the extent of maybe certain areas will be a gentleman's understanding to have minority candidates fielded, you know, government and the major opposition. The likelihood of not having a minority candidate elected will decrease significantly. But I think this only works, like I said, if there's a balanced political system where you have a two-party system that parties can agree on certain conventions rather than having, you know, GRCs and whatnot, which has its own problems, parachuting and all that. No, we
Understood.
talked about it.
For sure. So I think the GRC, while even though I'm supportive, but of very small GRCs, not 4 persons, maximum 2 actually. You don't even need more, right?
It's not really a group then.
Yeah.
Couple.
So last time, couple, right? Couple representation constituency, CRC. So, but it does come with other problems, right? Perception problems, parachuting, and so on. So that's interesting. There's a question on youths, but before that, there's a question on polarization.
Sure.
That I would like to address. Haikal asked about polarization, but before that, I wanted to ask: are you a Hang Tuah or Hang Jebat? Sana, I don't want to ask you to explain what our good minister said, because I don't think anybody can explain. I'm not sure whether he can explain himself what he meant by Hang Tuah and Hang Jebat in relation to Kelvin Cheng. But that's where Haikal is coming from, the polarization question. He was saying that we shouldn't have more polarization, which we all agree. But how do we guard against that? What is Workers' Party's plan to guard against that, especially when it comes to online polarization? You know, in online world is a different beast altogether, right? You know, in my DMs, in my comments, I get slammed all the time, and I'm not even a politician, you know, so politicians will get 10 times, 100 times worse than I am. So what is the way out? Or is that not even a problem to you?
Well, I think to speak specifically in our context, I think that harkens to the fact that we have a limit to how we exercise our free speech. I think that's why when we are, you know, we have a system where it's guarded in terms of how you exercise your free speech. There is a waiting or a boiling point where people would just,
I do agree with this also. I feel like the angst towards Kelvin now, Kelvin, I think part of it is because there's been a lot of sentiments
suppressed
that
or whatever
it's been suppressed and it's been repressed, and I think it's just coming to the fore now, and all of it is bubbling, right? It was bubbling under. Yeah, so you would say that the best counter to hate speech is more free speech? Is that?
I would say as our society matures, as our democracy matures, certain things will somehow work itself out. And I think when society matures, meaning
so we don't need the state intervention for those things?
I wouldn't say we don't need the state
Or
intervention.
as little as possible?
I think we are a mature society. I think we are developed. We are open to the world. We have seen how the world works. We have seen what is good and what's not. I think we are discerning. So I think we can make our minds up ourselves.
I
truly
agree.
believe in our people to do that.
I agree. I think we don't need the state to intervene every single time. I think the problem is also Singaporeans infantilize themselves. Sometimes we call the state to intervene all the time, right? When I think some things can be settled through debate. So Imran asked, do you think, and since you talk to a lot of people, and you are technically a youth yourself, right?
Yes,
so do you think that youths are still politically apathetic? For the most part.
For the most part, to a large extent. But there are great samples of youth or people of my generation who are politically involved and politically aware of things. But I think largely because, like I said, our system and our society, our daily focus is what we, our livelihoods and our families and all that. Politics is really something that comes maybe every 5-year cycle.
But in this cycle, they are fully invested. Or you think there's still a lot of apathy?
I think they are more fully invested today than 5 years ago, than 5 years before. So I think it's just a good
It's
progress.
growing.
It is.
It's growing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's a question. There's a comment here. Can you please help lobby Pritam Singh to come on? So Kelvin, can you help? Not Kelvin Cheng. Okay, that's not the guy. He's the WP media rep. So please, I'm sure a majority of those who watch this podcast would love him to be. So thank you for that. So I do think that youths today are definitely more invested as well. Now you have talked about, or you have walked the ground. How is the Malay ground now, you think? And I ask this, not just because you're Malay, and it is
Part of it.
partly because you're Malay. But partly also, I'm laughing because somebody commented, Minister Masagos, please come on to explain yourself too. And I would love, if he came on, honestly, I'll cut this short and I'll
cut this short too.
I'll have him on. So I ask this not just because of that, but in a lot of the constituencies that WP is contesting in, actually all of them, other than, I don't know whether WP is contesting in Punggol, all of them are Malay GRCs, right? The one reserved for Malays. And in Tampines and Tampines Changkat, there's about 25% Malay household. This is significant. 25% is not the majority, but it can definitely make or break the election.
Larger than the national.
Yeah, much larger than the national average by 10 points, right? 10 percentage points. So, so in your walkabout, so is the Malay ground different from the rest of the communities? I presume that most of the concerns would overlap, but are there additional concerns or what is it?
Yeah, you're right. Most of the concerns do overlap. You know, again, cost of living, housing, all that affects everybody. So Malay community is not any different from that.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm sure there are specific concerns every now and then for each community. As far as the Malay community is concerned, apart from the broader issues, we have previous issues where has been brought up before in Parliament that already has been somewhat resolved and all that.
Like the Tudong,
Tudong thing, for example. So
which Faisal did a lot to ensure that happened.
So things like that would apply, to my community in terms of concerns. Obviously today, there can be no two ways about it in terms of specific concern about what's going on geopolitically. It has also come up a few times during the house visits, and for us to state our position on it, that has happened before. For those who have not read our actual official party position, has actually asked that. Even in the Meet the People sessions, they have raised it, and we addressed it, fairly, I think reasonably. I think our position is clear. I don't think it departs any further from our government's position, our country's position. So I would say that is an issue that is an added issue today for the Muslim community.
So cost of living, housing, immigration, and then additionally Palestine matters much more for the Muslims.
Much more. Because
what about young people?
Young people.
Do they talk about Palestine to you?
I mean, those who are actually, asking us questions were actually they're young people. They're people of my generation actually, as opposed to the older ones.
Right.
And
these are young people who are not Muslims, or
both.
Right.
But specifically to the question of
speaking
to Malays,
right.
I mean, they are people of my generation. They are engaged to the issue for sure. Yeah.
And I think WP's statement today was pretty good. I think you are right. I don't think there is a significant departure. And to be fair to the government, they've handled, I think, Palestine reasonably well. I think they have done that. What your manifesto goes one step further, calling for the recognition of Palestine.
Yes.
Right. And that's really the only point of the major point of departure, right?
Yes.
The major one. And I agree with that as well. I agree that that should be the next step that we take, or at least, as Gerald said, we have a conversation on this. So how do you explain then? Is the Malay ground now? So how would you explain the sentiments? Is it in your favor, or?
I think, as far as people think that it may be a homogeneous thing, it's not. I honestly don't think so. I think there are segments of...
There are Malay grounds. There's no Malay ground, right? Yeah, there are Malay grounds. There are different segments.
Correct. So in that respect, it's a mixed bag as much as the entire population is. It's not saying that it's a sweet spot, for alternative views, or it's not. But I think they are discerning. We are discerning, and we are engaged, and we are willing to hear all sides and all proposals. So to me, that's good enough.
It's very, very politically correct.
Am I?
For a first timer, he's doing a very seasoned interview. So he's trying to say, yes, the Malay ground is sweet, without saying the Malay ground is sweet. Right, I'm interpreting correctly,
That's
right?
what he said. That's what he said.
Okay, right. But yeah, I think you are right. I think it's also important to emphasize 2 points. One is the Malay grounds.
Yes.
They are different, like socio-economic status,
That's
right? That's a
right.
cleavage that also cuts across
That's
the
right.
Malays. So people from different socio-economic status would
Yeah.
behave and think differently as
That's right.
well.
Yes.
And also, secondly, what you said earlier, which is actually the Malay ground, the concerns are just like other people as well.
Yes,
Most
yes.
of it would be the same as
Yes,
well,
it is.
right? Yeah. So, do you have any comments? Somebody mentioned it seems like the WPs this time the new candidates, it's a bumper crop of professionals. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, we've only seen 4 today, so I can't comment on the entire final slate. But based on just today, I'm impressed with my fellow colleagues in the party. I know all of them, so they are impressive people with different stories to bring, different things to contribute, and I think this says a lot in terms of how we have progressed in terms of our democratic struggle. You see, to have quality. I mean, I would say quality options, yeah, on both sides.
I agree with that as well. Why WP? Why did you join WP instead of PAP? Why didn't you volunteer with them? You know, you can affect change more.
That's right.
Then you can affect change more. Then what about SDP? And I presume you're gonna hide behind the fact that you're an ISTI or
That's one reason. That really is one reason. Yeah. Because
SDP or PSP or whatever. Yeah. So why not?
One
Yeah.
is geographical because all I've seen is either the lightning or the hammer.
But then people who don't live in the East don't understand how important that is to us. Like
It is.
this ISTI identity is very important.
Yes.
But the East Coast team suddenly took the motto East side, West side. Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Yeah, a ground out motto has been co-opted. Yeah. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah, no. Wait, what was the question again?
So,
East side, west side threw me off. Sorry.
so why WP?
Oh, yes. Okay, so YWP is, for example, opposed to say the PAP. Why shouldn't I volunteer for the PAP? I think the PAP or the incumbent has done well in many respects. You know, I mean, it's not understated, and I think contributing to that effort and endeavor to be in the position of policy making, I think it's very effective. But why the difference I saw was simply this. Having a alternative voice that is credible is what I want to bring to society or to our nation, our next stage of nation building. And what other way to do that other than to contribute yourself to a credible alternative? I truly believe in a balanced political system. So that was the premise of why I started in WP. Why not the other parties is simply because, other than the geographical reason, I have observed since my first knowledge of WP in 06 actually, not 2011. 06, like I said, we went to the same secondary school, East Coast. It was WP, and that was the first time I believe they contested in that GRC. I remember I was only like a secondary school student. We were, walking with my friends, seeing the hammer. So we were naturally curious what this is. All we've seen is the lightning, and when we went to kindergarten is the lightning. So hammer is something else. So that was my first, awakening, so to speak. So over time, I looked into the history and what it has done, and what it aspires to be in the position that it has taken. So by the time I hit 2011, with the watershed election that we had, and being in Serangoon Stadium, having the electric crowd and all that, really made an impression on me. So I think it was a natural thing. By the time by the time I was a voter, I think my mind was set in terms of where I would want to contribute by the time I started my career, and at some point to come into grassroots lah. So it was really that kind of a growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the hammer got you.
Yes.
So there's a question here that I guess is even more relevant for you.
Sure.
With what happened to Raisa, do you think the stakes are even higher for opposition candidates who are minorities? Fairly or unfairly, you will still be judged by the actions of other minorities. This is, I think, it's unfair.
Sure.
But it's a reality of life, right? Yeah.
Well, I think at the outset, the challenges for the opposition candidates are already tougher. The challenges for minority opposition candidates are already tougher. And the challenges of being a minority opposition candidate after what has transpired can't be any tougher. So, having said that, we are all individuals. We have our stories to tell. We have our, different strengths and weaknesses. And I think we should be judged on our merits. So I do recognize, implications of such political issues that come up for both sides, for that matter. So it's a political cost and price that comes with the territory. So we just come to it with both eyes open.
So you just accept it. Yeah. So one of the things that happened earlier, so my WhatsApp groups were buzzing with Alia's introduction.
Yes.
And a lot of women, a lot of my lady friends, women friends, they were actually saying, "Oh my God, I think it's going to be hard for her as a minority, as a hijabi, and so on." And I think people don't appreciate that there is that element, right? The ethnicity, then the gender, and the hijabi, so visibly Muslim.
Yes.
It could have an impact. Now, I'm not saying that it is life-changing, or I think it's so severe, the impact, because we have seen trailblazers before, right?
Yeah.
Madam Halima is one, Rahayu Mahzam, MOS Rahayu is another. So we have seen these trailblazers, but I still think being in the opposition is a bit harder in many ways, right? It's a bit harder. It's understating it. Yeah. Being a politician is hard enough, but being in the opposition, I think, is really hard.
Yes. But I think all the power to her and to many candidates who
100%.
I mean
100%. All power to all the candidates who put themselves forward, PAP and opposition and independent nowadays. I need to say, but especially those who have targets on their backs, right? People are just hungry for a good opposition. Do you think that is the case?
Yes, straight up, yes.
Yeah. So and that is what drove you to WP as well.
So. Being a credible option was how it inspired me to basically get involved, and I think the same feeling is it's everywhere, it's widespread in terms of having a credible alternative.
What's the reaction now when people see you are from the WP? Do people close the door?
As my own personal experience, I've never faced that. I think people were very open to hearing what we had to say. Again, I generally only walked in one area, which is actually new ground. So I mean, it's something to I mean, it's not something that they are familiar seeing, you see. So I don't see any negative reactions. I hope my colleagues don't see that as well. And I think I think it bodes well for us.
Three-cornered fights. Somebody asked, what happens if WP is there, WP wins by default over the opposition? Not maybe against the PAP, but
being the second party.
Are you not afraid at all of three-cornered fights?
Well, do I say afraid? I think we shouldn't be afraid coming in, whether it's 3, 4, 5 corner fight. I think
a level of confidence.
I think afraid
that's the right attitude.
Not afraid. I think as a general point of view, healthy competition, I mean democracy, multi-party system, go for it. I mean, I'm all for it. Having said that, I think even the opposition parties are discerning in terms of figuring out what works best. So to believe it as that.
So many layers to his answers, like this is, when a Malay gives a pantun, right? There are multiple layers. There are deep meanings. So he's saying that the opposition, I'm translating. Sure. So an Indian translating a Malay pantun. So I may get it wrong. You are saying that the opposition should know if WP is there, they're gonna get trounced.
That's not what I said. What I said was we are all discerning, all of us in the same camp. So
okay, so make what you want of it. Right? So when will WP be ready to form a shadow cabinet? Somebody asked, because it was announced today that WP is unable, and I think the way Pritam said it's unable to fill 1/3 candidates for 1/3 of the seats.
Yes.
But again, I don't know whether Pritam is still in the mode of playing chess, so I don't know. But that's what he said, right?
Yes,
So WP is clearly not ready to form shadow cabinet, nowhere near it. But what is the target?
Well, a shadow cabinet, as far as I understand, is to have each MP shadowing one ministry.
Right. So
as far as I understand, we have 17 ministries.
Yeah.
We have
So
only,
you don't have enough that. Yeah.
We have only attained 10 at the maximum. So until the evolution our political evolution leads that way, I think there's a natural thing to be in the cards to have a shadow cabinet. I think it's all for it. I mean, you focus on
getting the seats.
Yeah, getting the seats.
So that is not something that you're thinking about, the shadow cabinet.
Or more or less, we can't think about it now. So
okay.
The reality is
somebody asked, what if somebody asked me just now when send me Pritam's 1/3 thing.
Yes.
So and that person asked me, do I think that people will see WP as having a lack of ambition?
I think our party's it's not strategy, it's more like how we observe the electorate every cycle is very well informed, in a sense where we hope we understand what Singaporeans actually want,
right?
In each cycle. So in each term, we can see, based on our performance, based on the government's performance, based on people's voices on the ground, which is another good point why we should have elected MPs so we can hear voices on the ground directly. So we have a pulse, so to speak, on society. So I think that's what's driving the decisions for the party, including but not limited to why fill a certain amount of candidates.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. I have a question on Palestine actually, but I don't know whether we still need to discuss that given the party statement. But any thoughts on Palestine, personal party thoughts?
Well, it is a existential humanitarian issue to me. It really is that, and I think that applies across all segments of society in terms of why it matters. Having said that, the affinity that certain segments of society, say our communities, why they think about these issues, because the affinity we have in terms of the religious links, to the people that are the plight of the Palestinians. The party's position is basically my position, and is basically the government's position that we believe in a two-state solution. I think our country has never departed from that position for the longest time.
Yeah.
What differs is that we feel there should be an expression to these concerns that people have, a political expression, so to speak. So that's why we have it in our manifesto to actually recognize the state of Palestine. And again, I hark back to the manifesto launch today when our policy head, Mr. Giam mentioned why we are proposing this is simply because we feel that we need to set the conditions for the two-state solution to happen, which is not any different from the government's position in terms of so that's what it is in terms of our position. Yeah.
So and he mentioned the catch-22.
Yes.
So the government says we cannot recognize Palestine because there is no effective authority. But you won't have an effective authority if you don't recognize Palestine and work towards it.
That's right.
And I thought that's a brilliant way of putting it. Yeah. So thank you. And I think a lot of people feel that way. I think it's true. You are right. At the core of it, this is a humanitarian issue. So we must not just pretend it's a religious issue. But at the same time, we also mustn't pretend that Muslims do not feel about this more, and I'm glad you were extremely honest. But also young people, a lot of them feel mobilized by this, right? On one hand, they feel despair. On the other, they feel like they are mobilized politically for this. And I think the government also knows that this is potentially an issue, especially after what has happened in the past 2-3 weeks. Before that, I think probably it wouldn't have mattered so much in the election, but now I think it definitely matters.
Yeah.
So before I ask you for final words, who's your favorite PAP MP? You cannot say Taman, cannot say Louis.
Well, I'll be biased. I guess I'll say my MP. I live in Pasir Ris. My MP is a first-time MP.
Syaril?
Syaril, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's a nice guy. I think he's well-meaning. Yeah, like I said, I think favorite is
it's a
is
strong
word
word.
I might not use,
Favourite.
but I like him. He's a good person.
Okay, excellent. So, any final words you have for us? You have the manifesto with you?
I think this is this is a snapshot of our manifesto. We are our slogan this time is working for Singapore. And why? Maybe I just have a little point about it. Is because we have been in Parliament for some time, and we are have made our contributions, and I hope the people have seen those contributions. And what we are simply asking is that we wish to be elected to continue working for Singapore. We're not espousing anything else other than the fact that we are part of the political evolution and that we want to contribute to it. So,
where's step up in this? I thought there was this step up.
I think it's well overspoken.
I think it's a good. See somebody immediately right on cue.
Yeah.
Put hashtag step up and also right on cue. So thank you so much, Sufyan. I wish you all the best.
No
If you ever become a parliamentarian, or who knows, maybe one day even a minister, right? Don't forget that your first interview was here on Teh Tarik.
Give me my big break. So this is what.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.